A young boy named Senkaka runs toward a tall tower. A group of factory workers has gathered to protest. The workers demand to see the factory owner, but the guards block the entrance and refuse to let anyone inside. Tension rises quickly, and soon a fight breaks out between the workers and the guards. After a few minutes, the factory owner spoke through a loudspeaker to address the crowd. He asked the workers to send two representatives to discuss their complaints and tells the rest of them to return home. Sankaka's father, who serves as the union leader, chooses two men to go inside and then urges the workers to stop the protest and head back. Sankaka watches all of this unfold from the tower, keeping a close eye on his father and the crowd. Later that evening, Sankaka speaks to his father about what happened. He tells him that one of his friends called him a troublemaker. His father calmly explains that he is not causing trouble, but standing up for the rights of the workers. Sankaka then mentions that his friend's father does not complain about the low wages and prefers peace over conflict. His father replies that just because some people are willing to stay silent and accept unfair treatment does not mean everyone should do the same. He tells Sankaka that demanding what is right is not wrong, even if it makes others uncomfortable. 3 days later, there is still no sign of the two men who had gone inside the factory. Sankaka overhears his parents talking in worried voices about the missing workers. His mother, Della, pleads with her husband not to go back, fearing for his safety. She begs him to think of their family, but he insists that the other workers depend on him and that he cannot abandon them. With determination, he leaves to lead another demonstration. Della, however, is also deeply troubled by the families of the men who disappeared. She decides to visit them to see if they have heard anything. She takes Sankaka with her, hoping to learn the truth. When they arrive at the factory, the situation has grown violent. The workers are clashing with the factory guards, demanding answers about their missing colleagues. Della brings Sankaka to the home of one of the supposedly missing men. To her surprise, she discovers him hiding there, very much alive, while his wife still insists he has been gone for 3 days. Realizing that something is wrong and that her husband may be walking into danger, Della quickly sets off for the factory again. On the way, she twists her ankle and can no longer keep up. She tells Sankaka to go ahead and find his father without her. Back at the protest, the truth is revealed. The factory owners had made a secret deal with the two men, paying them off and bribing another worker to betray Sankaka's father. In the middle of the commotion, that man stabs him. Sankaka arrives just in time to see his father fall to the ground, bleeding and unable to move. Overcome with shock and grief, he rushes to his father's side, only to watch him die in front of him. Desperate and angry, Sankaka grabs a glass shield from a nearby police officer, ready to fight back. At that moment, lightning strikes him and hurls him to the ground. The shield cracks instantly, and every police shield around him shatters into pieces. When people try to reach him, they are shocked to find electricity sparking from his body, jolting anyone who touches him. A year later, Della decided to move to another city to find work. Sankaka did not want her to go, but she reassured him that she would be back the following day. She left, but she never returned. Alone and hungry, Sankaka waited for days, hoping to see her again. The wife of the man who had betrayed his father came by and offered him food, but he refused to take it. Eventually, he left the house and began wandering the streets of Jakarta, searching for food while trying to avoid the street gangs that preyed on vulnerable children. One day, a group of boys cornered him. They surrounded him and beat him badly, and just when it seemed they might kill him, an older boy named Awang appeared and drove them away. Awang brought the injured Sankaka to his home and gave him a place to rest. Curious, he asked what Sankaka had done to make the boys attack him with such anger. Sankaka explained that he had been trying to help someone and ended up in trouble. Awang shook his head and warned him to stay out of other people's business if he wanted to survive. Over time, Awang began teaching him how to fight back and how to keep his distance from the problems of others. As they grew closer, Awang shared more about his own past. He revealed that he had once been adopted by wealthy people, but instead of being cared for, he was mistreated and abused. He eventually ran away and came to distrust anyone with money or power. He advised Sankaka never to trust rich people. One day, as the rain began to pour, Sankaka suddenly ran off and hid inside a train. Awang followed him, confused, and asked why he was so afraid of the rain. Sankaka told him it was not the rain, but the lightning that frightened him. He believed the lightning was following him, always waiting to strike. Not long after, Awang told Sankaka he planned to escape to a safer place. Hearing this, Sankaka wanted to go with him, but Awang refused, saying he did not want more trouble. Later, he told Sankaka to meet him the next morning if he was serious about joining. Together, they tried to jump onto a freight train. Awang managed to climb aboard, but Sankaka slipped and was left behind once again, forced to survive on his own. Before leaving, Awang repeated his warning. If Sankaka stayed out of other people's business, he would be fine. From then on, Sankaka did whatever he could to survive. He took on small jobs, kept to himself, and made sure no one had the chance to push him around. Despite his efforts, one day he crossed paths again with the same boys who had beaten him earlier. They tried to attack him once more, but this time Sankaka managed to escape, thanks to the unexpected help of a couple who stepped in. They offered to take care of him, but he refused their kindness and ran away, determined to rely only on himself. Years passed, and Sankaka grew into adulthood. He worked as a security guard and also took shifts as a part-time mechanic at a newspaper printing factory. The job was steady, and it allowed him to live quietly, but he never forgot the lessons from his childhood. One afternoon, while riding a crowded bus, Sankaka overheard a woman shouting angrily about the country, calling it a broken place with no hope. The tension spread quickly, and not long after, a fight broke out among some strangers. Sankaka watched for a moment but reminded himself of Awang's advice to stay out of other people's problems. He kept his head down, avoided getting involved, and went home. That evening, as rain poured heavily outside, he hurried to close his windows. A sudden flash of lightning lit up the room, startling him. Despite being grown, his old fear of storms and lightning had never left him. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a young legislator named Durga attended a lavish party filled with older politicians. He arrived with his wife and children. His wife took the children to get food while Durga stayed behind to talk with his colleagues. During their conversation, one of the legislators began discussing a man known as Pengkor. Pengkor was no ordinary figure. He was a powerful crime boss who held influence over many members of the Indonesian Assembly. Beyond his political connections, he commanded a private army made up of orphans who had been raised and trained as assassins. The story of Pengkor's childhood explained much of his cruelty. When he was young, a fire swept through his home and left him horribly burned. His parents, who had become targets during a violent protest involving plantation workers, were brutally murdered in front of him. After their deaths, Pengkor's uncle sent him to a brutal orphanage, not out of care, but in hopes that the boy would not survive. With Pengkor gone, his uncle would inherit the family wealth. The orphanage was a place of abuse and suffering, but Pengkor refused to give in. Instead, he encouraged the other children to rise against their abusers, and together they killed the staff. As the men at the party continued their discussion, Pengkor himself arrived. His appearance caused discomfort among the guests. One legislator quickly excused himself and left, not wanting to be near him. Pengkor approached Durga and extended his hand, but Durga refused, saying he did not shake hands with people like him. The remark embarrassed Pengkor in front of the entire group. Keeping his composure, Pengkor replied that he was just an ordinary man before walking away. The conversation soon returned to his past. Years later, after surviving the orphanage, Pengkor had murdered his uncle and claimed the inheritance that had been denied to him. With that wealth, he took control of the orphanage and turned it into his base. To outsiders, Pengkor was a feared criminal, but to the orphans he had freed and raised, he was seen as a savior, even a god who had given them a new life. On the way home, Durga saw children begging on the streets. He decided to give them money, even though his wife advised against it. Pengkor took offense at Durga's defiance and ordered his men to kill his family. The men captured Durga, his wife, and their children, killing them in front of him. In despair, Durga jumped from a rooftop after seeing his family thrown down, and they all died. Meanwhile, Sankaka was at home and had a dream about his childhood. The next day at work, a man burst into the factory asking for help as he was being chased. Sankaka and his colleagues protected him. One of the guards suggested taking the man to the police. He told Sankaka that life had little meaning if he only thought about himself and never helped others. Later that evening, Sankaka heard shouting from his neighbor Wulan's home. Two thugs were threatening her to kill her. This time, he could not ignore it. He stepped in and quickly overpowered the men, forcing them to flee. Wulan and her younger brother Teddy thanked him for helping them. That night, while on guard duty, Sankaka was attacked by a larger group of thugs sent for revenge. He fought back but was outnumbered and overwhelmed. They chased him onto a rooftop where they beat him badly and threw him off. As heavy rain poured, lightning struck his unconscious body, reviving him and unlocking the powers hidden within him. He dreamed of his younger self calling out for his mother. A sudden knock on his door woke him. It was Wulan, who asked him to look after Teddy before leaving in a hurry. The legislators gathered for a meeting. One of them claimed that Penkor was behind the death of Durga and his family. Another quickly warned him to stop speaking against Penkor, or he might meet the same fate. As they argued, a legislator loyal to Penkor defended him, saying false accusations were dangerous and that they should ask Penkor directly. Soon after, Penkor arrived, offered his condolences, and reminded them to be careful with their words. Later, Penkor spoke privately with the legislator he had bought. He shared his concern about unrest in the market and the growing protests. The legislator apologized and assured him that everything would be brought back under control. Meanwhile, a group of men poisoned rice from a factory by injecting it with chemicals. At home, Sankaka asked Teddy about his family. Teddy explained that his mother had passed away and that the woman he lived with was his older sister. Wanting to look after him, Sankaka took Teddy to the market, but his sister was already leading a protest there. She grew angry when she saw Sankaka had brought Teddy into the chaos. The thugs who had once beaten Sankaka were shocked to see him alive. They attacked again, but this time Sankaka fought back with new strength. His lightning powers surged, and he defeated them easily. Back at the factory, he told his friend he had taken down 30 thugs. His friend laughed, thinking it was a joke. Sankaka explained that the only reason it had been possible was because of his lightning powers, which gave him strength beyond anything he had known before. Wulan, Teddy, and a man who had witnessed Sankaka's strength invited him to join their secret group of vendors who protected the market from thieves. Sankaka refused, saying he had learned to only look out for himself. They argued that his powers were needed. To test him, the man struck him on the head, thinking he could not feel pain, but Sankaka collapsed, proving otherwise. When he woke up, Wulan and the man returned to the market, and his friend later helped clean up his wound. That night, the thugs returned and set the market on fire. Flames spread quickly, and by the time people gathered to put them out, most of the stalls were already gone. Walking through the ruins afterward, Sankaka felt a heavy weight of guilt pressing on him for not helping sooner. Wulan, seeing his struggle, reminded him of his father's belief that people must stand up for those in need, no matter the risk. Her words stayed with him, and Sankaka finally agreed to fight alongside them, realizing he could no longer turn his back. Wanting to understand his abilities better, Sankaka returned to the factory and asked his friend to attack him. The older man tried but quickly grew tired, too weak to even land a proper punch. Frustrated, Sankaka realized he needed another way to test his strength. Not long after, heavy rain began to fall. He stepped outside into the storm, and lightning struck him once again. His body surged with energy, and when his friend rushed forward to help, he was thrown back by the shock radiating from Sankaka's skin. Wulan then struck him with a wooden stick, but he did not feel any pain. They realized in that moment that his powers came directly from the lightning, feeding him with strength each time the storms returned. Soon after, they went to a wedding to confront a man they believed was responsible for burning down the market. Before they could finish questioning him, several guests collapsed, choking after eating rice that had been contaminated. Panic spread across the hall. Meanwhile, the news reported a growing crisis throughout the city. Pregnant women were falling seriously ill after consuming the poisoned rice. Doctors warned that the children born from these women would lose their sense of morality. The drug in the rice would not affect the mothers alone, but would remain in the babies after birth, weakening their ability to tell right from wrong. The next time the thugs came back, Sankaka appeared wearing a mask to hide his identity. He fought to defend the market and stood firm against their attacks. During the clash, one masked man stabbed him and quickly collected a vial of his blood before escaping into the crowd. Thanks to his powers, Sankaka healed quickly and kept fighting, defeating the rest of the attackers. Later, back at the factory, his friend reassured him not to worry, saying the rain and lightning would always restore him. That evening, Sankaka opened up to Wulan about his past. For the first time, he showed her a picture of his mother, something he had kept hidden for years. Woolen, Teddy, and his friend began helping Sankaka understand his powers and train more effectively. To manage them better and prepare for the battles ahead, Sankaka even put together a homemade costume, determined to step fully into the role he had once avoided. That night, he fought again when thugs tried to destroy the market. At the same time, Penkor's men unearthed a block of ice hidden underground. Word spread among legislators about both the poison rice and the masked man who had started defending the people. They argued over who was responsible for the contamination. Eventually, they found an antidote and also decided to track down the masked fighter. Meanwhile, Woolen cooked dinner for Sankaka and Teddy. Teddy teased Sankaka, saying Woolen had a crush on him and that was why she had cooked. Later, a former thug from the market approached them with information about the fire. He claimed that a well-known violinist, Adi Suleiman, had been seen at the market shortly before it burned down. When Sankaka confronted Suleiman, the musician mocked his costume and laughed at him. A fight broke out, ending with Suleiman being struck by a bus while trying to escape. Sankaka's courage inspired the locals. More people began resisting the thugs and organizing protests against the government control. Penkor pressured the legislators to block the release of the antidote, trying to trick the legislators into thinking that giving the antidote is a good thing. Adi Suleiman was one of Penkor's orphans, trained as an assassin who fought using his violin bow. Penkor had found him when he was only 4 years old. After his mother, a prostitute, passed away, Suleiman was left to survive on the streets. Because of his mother's reputation, no one was willing to help him. When Penkor heard of Suleiman's death and of Sankaka's rising reputation, he ordered his orphans to spread out across the city and eliminate him. The assassins unleashed chaos, killing both civilians and government officials. One of them targeted the legislator lead named Ridwan, but Sankaka arrived in time to save him. The assassin fled, leaving behind his mask. Sankaka noticed a mark on it that confirmed who they were. Ridwan explained that Penkor had trained orphans across the country to be deadly assassins. He urged Sankaka to stand against them. When Ridwan asked who he was, Sankaka answered that he was a representative of the people. Penkor's men later gathered at a museum. There, Gujal quoted an ancient Javanese phrase, "the most dangerous foe of men." He explained that it meant hidden truth is mankind's greatest enemy. Meanwhile, protests spread across the country, demanding that the government provide the antidote to all pregnant women who had eaten the contaminated rice. Legislators and officials met to debate the issue. Some opposed the bill, arguing that there was not enough research to guarantee the antidote's safety. After much debate, the decision was made to legalize the antidote. The people celebrated the outcome, seeing it as hope for protecting future generations. The distribution of the antidote began across the country. Trucks and vehicles loaded with supplies left the production centers to deliver doses nationwide. At the factory, Woolen spoke with Sankaka and revealed something important. She explained that she had once worked as a nurse in a hospital in the southeast. While there, she met his mother. Contrary to what he believed, his mother had never abandoned him. She had been a patient at the hospital, and when she returned home, she could not find him. She searched everywhere, but never succeeded. Woolen said his mother was the reason she came to care for Teddy, teaching her the value of family and the importance of looking after each other. Meanwhile, Penkor's orphans prepared to hunt down Sankaka. At his home, Ridwan discovered an envelope containing medical lab results. Confused by the details, he sent it to a friend for translation. The report revealed that the antidote was being produced by a pharmaceutical company secretly owned by Penkor himself. Outraged, Ridwan realized the entire operation was a deception. He attempted to halt the distribution, but soon learned that only Penkor had the authority to stop it. As Sankaka prepared to leave the factory, he received a call from Ridwan. He explained that the so-called immoral serum was a fabrication created by Penkor as part of a scheme to spread contamination under the cover of the antidote. Ridwan urged him to go after Penkor immediately and put an end to his plan. Not long after, Penkor and his orphans arrived at the factory searching for Sankaka. A fierce fight broke out. The orphans attacked, and Sankaka defended himself, striking them down one by one as the battle escalated. The antidotes reached the injection centers, and pregnant women lined up to receive them. Nurses were instructed to delay the injections until further notice, but desperate husbands pleaded with them to give the shots to their wives. Eventually, some nurses gave in and administered the injections. Meanwhile, Pencor and his orphans captured Woolen, Teddy, and Sankaka's friend. Under Pencor's order, one of the orphans stabbed his friend. Enraged, Sankaka unleashed his lightning powers with greater force than before, striking down most of the attackers. One of the orphans attempted to use a trick to control Sankaka's mind, but he resisted and killed him. Pencor then tried to strike Sankaka from behind, only to be stopped by a gunshot fired by Ridwan. As Pencor's son ran to help, Pencor told him to leave, and he reluctantly obeyed. Ridwan confronted Pencor about his lies. Pencor responded coldly, saying there was no stopping the plan and that people would turn on each other once they learned the truth about the antidotes. Sankaka stood firm, telling him that the people were not as foolish as he believed. Determined to end it, Sankaka raced to intercept the antidote convoy. A mysterious woman named Sriasi appeared and joined him in the fight. Together, they stopped the trucks. Sankaka then channeled his lightning through the antidote containers, destroying all of them across the country and preventing the contaminated chemical from spreading. When the news broke, people were relieved that they had not received the injections, knowing they had been saved from Pencor's scheme. Pencor's partner, Gazul, broke through a hidden wall inside a museum and discovered a crypt sealed for centuries. Inside was the remains of a figure from the past, a body lying apart from its severed head. Gazul took out the vial of Sankaka's blood he had stolen earlier and used it in a dark ritual. The blood fused the head and body back together, and before long the figure came back to life. The figure was a feared medieval warrior known for his unmatched strength and cruelty. Gazul told the man about Sankaka, calling him Gundala, a word from ancient Javanese that meant thunder. Hearing this, the man declared that Sankaka would be his enemy. He ordered Gazul to raise an army and prepare for a great war, setting the stage for a conflict that was only beginning. Not long after, Ridwan met with Sankaka. He asked whether Sankaka planned to leave the city now that the immediate danger had passed. Sankaka said he was not going anywhere. Ridwan reminded him that the city was safe for now and that he had the choice to walk away if he wished. Sankaka responded that someone once told him, "Peace never lasts." Ridwan pressed him further, asking why they keep fighting if peace cannot endure. Sankaka answered that every second of peace, no matter how brief, is worth fighting for. Elsewhere, a man approached Sriasi and told her that Sankaka would need her help in the battles to come. She listened silently, then got into her car and drove away, leaving the future uncertain but hinting that she would return when the time came.